The new moon of Cancer emerges Monday, July 17th at 11:31 a.m. Pacific time. This is a big point in the year, not just because it's a new moon. Of course, we have a new moon every month, and they are always seeding points and the beginning of the next 30-day cycle. And this new moon in Cancer, big themes have to do with family and home and security, residence, safety. These kinds of topics are very, very prominent at this full moon. And this new moon, excuse me. And this new moon is the beginning of several cycles, some shorter and some longer, that we will be seeing the results, repercussions, rewards, consequences. So really take in what's going on right now, because so much of it has really pretty significant and far-reaching effects and consequences in our life. This new moon is setting off so this is like 2-week cycles, 6-month cycles, 1-year cycle, 2.5-year cycle, and in some cases 28-year cycles. So there's a lot of very karmic situations that are taking place right now, and it's because the nodes of fate are also very involved in this new moon as they shift to the Aries Libra axis about an hour after the new moon emerges. And as they make that shift, they are actually creating, they shift into Aries Libra and they create a grand square with Pluto and Capricorn and the new moon of Cancer. And so the grand cardinal square is almost in some way it can be looked as the perfect set of problems, the perfect set of challenges, a seemingly immovable obstacle. There are so many different levels that it presents on. There's on a geological weather level, it's as if major natural disasters involving completely different elements happening at different corners of the earth that all require a humanitarian effort of aid. So that could be something that's has to do with fire, heat, eruption, volcanic eruption, something hot, or wind like tornadoes, or water like tsunamis, or earth like earthquakes. And so there is this sense of a lot of potential for a big kind of world geological crisis to take place during this time. And I don't mean to create fear, but I'm just reading what the stars are saying. On another level, there's really an opportunity for 4 different world leaders to be in a standoff that leads to a war. Pluto, all of the cardinal signs are leadership and initiation. And so something is being initiated in this cycle. Pluto, god of the underworld, is in Capricorn, representing an era that is in the process of crumbling. It's the old world based on a lot of very rigid and conservative and hierarchical, patriarchal tenets, and that way of life is crumbling. It's all we know, so it feels very scary and threatening. That's the Cancer, that's the opposition to the Cancer moon. So moon, our security, our safety, our family, our homeland, whatever is in direct opposition to this Plutonian crumbling that's happening of these old systems and structures and the patriarchy, fathers, whatever it is. And it's the old world is crumbling, and it has to, and because we're just evolving into the future. That's the thing about Pluto in the square with the nodes. Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn, which he stepped his feet into Aquarius, which is the next era that we're going into, which is the next world. But now he's come back for the rest of this year into Capricorn, because we have unfinished business in the old world. And again, this old world is dealing a lot with patriarchy and systems and hierarchy and conservative, rigid structures, and that involve a lot of power. So these types of rigid structures and hierarchies do not come down easily. So it does look like there is like a knockdown, drag out. And as Pluto comes into the square with the nodes of fate, it does seem like possibly the rise of an underworld figure who is making a fated choice, which looks like it is initiating a war of some kind. It looks like, the Aries North Node and the Libra South Node is the beginning of war. It's the end of peace and diplomacy. Now, I'm talking about on the world scale right now. This nodal shift is also going to play out for us in our personal lives as well. We are going to see many, many, many people making a new start in their life as it relates to relationships. And we're going to see between July 17th of 2023, right now, Monday, tomorrow, and January of 2025, so the next year and a half, there will be a record number of divorces and the dissolution of business partnerships that have existed for many, many years. And I don't say this to scare people. If you're in a solid, secure, happy marriage, you have nothing to worry about. But, just like in 2022, there was astrology for an abundance of weddings and celebrations with that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, and we saw a record number of weddings. Well, the South Node in Libra rules marriage, and so the South Node in Libra over the next year and a half, unfortunately, will be a record number in divorces that happen. And again, all of this, the crumbling of the old world, the ending of, and for some people it won't be divorces. For some people it will be the end of friendships, long-term business partnerships. Libra is relationships. For some situations, it's just the end of peace treaties. It's the end of diplomacy. It's the end of, the end of beauty, the end of art. I don't know, things like that. But it's tough times for Libran themes in the next year and a half. And not tough times for no reason. It's tough times because, it's getting in touch with the spiritual nature of these topics. And I'm going to do probably more videos on the nodes because they're such a deep topic in and of themselves. There are so many levels, but part of what's happening at this nodal shift, as the nodes change to the Aries North Node and the Libra South Node, it's the end of the Taurus Scorpio axis, which we've been on as a collective since January of 2022. January 18th, 2022 is actually when the nodes shifted to the Taurus Scorpio axis. And so that is ending for us July 17th. And so that is the ending of a cycle that we were in, of some storyline in our life that began January 18th, 2022, now coming to an end. And again, Taurus, Scorpio, that's the axis of money. It's the axis of desire. It's the axis of sex. It's the axis of life and death. Scorpio and Taurus, it's the axis of possessions. And so many of us were, obviously the collective, the North Node and Taurus, when I saw it coming in, I talked about the inflation. Oh my God, it's but we saw it coming in the sky. Still no fun to experience, but hopefully maybe that's going to temper off once the North Node gets out of Taurus a bit. But the North Node in Aries it's fiery. And I mean, for people as individuals, there's a lot of great spirit to connect to in this energy. It's great for starting new things. It's great for initiation. It's great for boldness and pioneering and trailblazing and, you know, taking risks and, you know, inspiration and things of that nature. You know, the best side of Aries is really getting in touch with your inner authority, getting in touch with your sovereignty, just understanding who you are as an individual, separate from your relationships. But relationships are important, and that's why, even though this Aries energy is important for us as individuals, it's challenging, I think, at this time for humanity, because I mean, from my, you know, limited earthly perspective, of course, I feel like the last thing we need is more individualism right now. But it does appear to be kind of what's on the table from a cosmic calendar point of view for the next year and a half. And I know that in the end, even though we do have to go through this very fiery next year, and in America, it really aligns with the election. And so I think that the energy of the election cycle is really going to kick off in a major way this week. And I think that we're going to see a lot of fighting and war within the country leading up to the election, because this North Node is going to take us through to the inauguration. So in terms of world politics, again, it does look like a standoff between four world leaders. It looks like the rise of a dictator or underworld figure that, you know, it does potentially, I mean, yeah, four world leaders. So is that what a world war is? I don't know, but something like that looks like it's lining up in this astrology. I hate to say it, but I'm just reading the stars. And that doesn't mean, I mean, listen, the world has always been on fire. Planet Earth has always been in fire. If you read the Bible, I mean, you know, we can still have beautiful lives within the context of what's going on in the grand scale. So I don't want this astrology to scare anyone, but I do want people to be aware of the cosmic weather that we're entering, because, you know, we know the weather report, we know how to dress, we know whether to bring the umbrella, we know whether to use our windshield wipers, or, you know, take a safer route that's not going to be, whatever the things are. I mean, that's what astrology is meant for. It's to help navigate the cosmic tides and the cosmic weather in a way. It's like we can't change it, but we can work with it in ways that keep us safe and content and flowing with the rhythm of nature, you know. And yeah, I mean, in the big scale, we're having an upgrade on the planet. Humanity needs to level up to another level of existence on the planet, and we are going to see the crumbling of all old people, places, institutions, you know, thought structures that are not based in love and truth. They're going to fall to the wayside. Speaking of which, Eris, goddess of the underworld, I mean, not goddess of the underworld, goddess of discord, is in a square with Pluto. She's in Aries and the new moon. So, and then, yeah, so Eris, goddess of discord. She's like the goddess energy of Pluto and Mars kind of put together, but she's the feminine energy, and she brings chaos, discord, things like even like emasculation, and she brings this to the world, in that wherever there are dark truths, wherever there are injustices or lies that are hiding beneath the shadows, she shakes it up. She brings it to the surface to be dealt with, but usually in very like dominating, aggressive, forceful ways. And so that kind of energy is also very present in this new moon cycle. And so we have all of these different planetary energies that are taking place within the cycle, but the big headliner is that grand cross, bringing in Aries, Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra. And it really, and for individuals, it can feel like a war within, it can feel like it can create, standoffs within families, standoffs within businesses or within communities where, but it appears to be more than just, an opposition is just two at a standoff. But a grand square is like 4 different positions all standing off, creating what feels like an immovable square. And, at the same time, there's other astrology going on too. Pallas Athene and Mars are working together strategically, head down, one task at a time. They are perfecting, they are preparing, they are getting something done that will be, reaping some rewards and bringing some returns on investment. So, everything is not all bad. However, Mars is coming up on the opposition with Saturn this week on Thursday. Mars-Saturn oppositions are very difficult. A lot of times they have to do with really, really hard work. They have to do with needing perseverance, and, they have a relentless quality to them. It can be something that wants to go fast, and something that's putting up a wall that needs to be overcome. And so these energies are very present within this new moon cycle as well. And then you've got Mercury in Leo squaring Jupiter in Taurus, which is maybe, someone talking too much about something, or, someone boasting or bragging about something, somebody showing off their things or their money in a way that causes a conflict or a challenge of some kind. And it can also be, it's Mercury in Leo. So it can be, things related to children, challenges with, food or weight or things like that with children. So all of these different energies are present in this Cancer new moon. And again, these issues that we're talking about that are going on right now have near and far reaching consequences. What's going on in this period as the new moon emerges is going to bloom in 2 weeks. The seeds that are being planted now will bloom in 2 weeks. Another patch will bloom in 6 months. Another patch will bloom in a year. Another patch will bloom in 2.5 years. And another patch, for those where it's applicable, will bloom in like 27.5, 28 years. So it's like, what's happened? We are at a very critical point. Fated karmic choices are being made that affect several cycles of our life, near and far. And so it's a critical turning point right now. Even though it's just a new moon, it's a new moon that is connected to a lot of karmic astrology that has to do with past lives, our early childhood. There's a lot of past energy here. And the opposition to Pluto does have to do with releasing some things from the past. It can have to do with secrets arising from the past. It can have to do with, transformation or threats to our security, our home, our family, our mothers, our feelings, our emotional landscape, our safety. If I didn't already say that, security, safety, those are all very Cancerian themes. There can be some defensive energy and fear around this new moon, but we are meant to move forward with love. We are meant to move forward with love. We are meant to move forward with love. But it is a time where we have to face our fears and learn how to deal with them in loving ways, in loving, compassionate ways. And that's, brings me to the fact that Neptune is trine the new moon. This is Neptune in Pisces, the oversoul, the great oneness that connects us all. And, there's all this difficult, complicated astrology. And then you see that Neptune just bringing this surge of love from the oversoul, from the oneness that connects us all, just right down into the soul center of planet Earth. And so that's where our salvation lies in this time. It's in compassion, in generosity, in connecting to God and to higher power. It's all of these Neptunian themes, and there is, spirituality, and there's so much to Neptune, and Neptune has a shadow side as well, but because it's the trine with the new moon, it is kind of like almost like this savior piece within all of the other astrology. And I don't know, whenever it's written in the stars, I know that there's a higher purpose to it, even though it may not make sense on planet Earth. That's why I study the stars, and from our human earthly perspective, in the midst of everything, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Things look painful, things look tough, but in the bigger scheme of things, of what's happening for humanity as a collective, I don't think any of us can argue that the collective of humanity has been living within, a lot of greed and hatred and violence and corruption. And those things are coming to bear right now for us as, world crisis. It's also creating personal crisis for a lot. There's so much depression. There's so much suicide. There's, so much anxiety. There's so many, overdoses and all of these things that are happening on the individual scale that really mirror in many ways the chaos and just, disaster and struggle that's going on around the entire world. And that's what it is that we really are all connected. We really are all one. And that sounds so cliche, Bob Marley had it right. Go listen to Bob Marley, everybody, because we all need to be in that kind of consciousness to survive the next phase of what is coming at us as humanity during these very intense times. We need to be in the consciousness of oneness, and we need to be in the consciousness of love. We have to be. Our very survival depends on it. It's not even like an esoteric, one love. No, it's like our very survival on the planet depends on it right now. I can't say it any clearer. It's written in the stars. I'm not making it up. And myself included needs to be behaving more in this way because, we are all in one way or another, we've all absorbed the sickness, and it's up to us as individuals and within our communities to heal ourselves, but then our immediate, families, communities, cities, countries. But like, it's kind of reaching a do or die point for humanity. And you see the grand square in Hollywood, certainly, with the writer's strike and the actor's strike. And it's interesting because I just knew when I saw the astrology that the actor's strike would happen as Venus was stationing. And I mean, you cannot make this shit up. I mean, it is so literal. And again, when you see it in the stars like that, there's a bigger meaning to this. And Hollywood, even though run by liberals, it's also part of the old rigid systems and structures in the country that have not undergone a renovation in a very long time. Systems and structures that have historically been based on excluding others, abuse of power, greed, not great values. And, I'm a writer, so I definitely want writers to be okay and artists to be okay. But the structure of the business is so screwed up, as is the government, as are the banking systems, as are all of the outmoded institutions of the old world of America that are crumbling right now. And they're crumbling for a reason, because our consciousness creates reality and our consciousness is elevating. See, the Aquarian, the Pluto and Aquarius era that we're going to, it's not without its shadows. Obviously, we all know AI being the biggest one that's creating a lot of fear for all of us. But it is about higher consciousness as well. There is that timeline in the Aquarian future that is, and we are outgrowing intellectually and consciousness-wise this old world. It's like the gig is up, the veil has been lifted, and as our consciousness has this awareness, those old systems will disappear. They will cease to exist. And for a lot of people, even though it's like we know it's not working, there's still all this fear about the crumbling that we see going on around us because we don't know where the future is going. And that's why it's so important to take our consciousness right now away from the fear. It's not easy. It's a daily effort for some people. Maybe it's easier for some. I'm one of those people who has to work on it with a daily routine of meditation and prayer and consciousness and studying the stars to remind me that there is this higher order, even though it may not seem like it in the day-to-day realities of the 3D material world. But the best use of our consciousness at this time, in the age of consciousness, is to co-create the future with love, with vision, with bravery, all of these higher frequencies, expressions of the Aquarian energy, meeting up with the Aries energy, meeting up with the Cancer energy, meeting up with the Capricorn energy, meeting up with the Virgo energy, meeting up with the Libra energy. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. And in the coming days, we're going to be facing experiences where we either realize that and behave from that place, or we crumble and cease to exist. And that is the word for now on the Cancer new moon. And again, these are general readings of the general energies. If you contact me for your own personal astrological reading, we can see where the grand square is happening in your chart and how you can work with the energies. And that's what I can say is a great reason to get a reading, is because when you see where the square is and you have that place of conscious awareness, you can get in the center of that square and wield the energies consciously. If you don't have that awareness, it's hard to find that center and that ability to give them all what they want. You have to, I don't know. I don't, you don't have to do anything, but I'm just like, okay, so contact me for a reading. And wow, this ended up being a 30-minute video. Let's see if it ever uploads to Instagram. I hope I remembered everything that I want to say. I always inevitably forget something, but I can always record a new video soon. Thank you for joining me. I would love to read with you. That's my favorite, is one-on-one interactions with people to go through their charts together. It's a wonderful tool of self-awareness and self-discovery. It's like having a weather report and a compass and a calendar and, you know, all in one. I don't know, all of that. So happy new moon of Cancer. See you soon.